The Politicrat is brought to you by the great people at Anchor. Anchor is such a great place to go if you want to get started in podcasting, and it's easy and it's free. Anchor, marvelous stuff, marvelous. And I'm so grateful to the folks at Anchor for getting me going with The Politicrat. If you want to get going and be heard on Apple, on Spotify, and everywhere podcasts can be, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to The Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Tuesday, May the 26th, 2020. What you are about to hear happened yesterday in New York City, in Central Park.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And I'm
me.
taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there is a man, African-American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I'm in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
The male voice, Christian Cooper. The female voice, Amy Cooper. They are not related. Christian Cooper is black. Amy Cooper is white. When I return, I'm going to be talking about Amy Cooper, whiteness, and racial violence in America. When I return.
You to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And I'm
me.
taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
That was yesterday. I played the full portion of video from Christian Cooper, which was posted on his Facebook page yesterday. Amy Cooper works at Franklin Templeton Investments. And the first thing I want to start out with is, how many Amy Coopers are there out there? How many Amy Coopers are there? How many are there who would think nothing of calling the police on someone who is literally doing nothing but being in Central Park bird watching? I really do wonder how many people think like Amy Cooper does. Specifically, how many white people think the way she does. Amy Cooper is very aware of Carolyn Bryant. Carolyn Bryant is a white woman who in Mississippi back in 1955 had lied and said to her husband or to a group of white men that Emmett Till, a 13 or 14-year-old boy, black boy, had whistled at her or said something to her. Emmett Till said nothing to her. Carolyn Bryant is a white woman, and her lies meant that Emmett Till would die. Her lie literally killed Emmett Till. The white men that attacked him and brutalized him and mutilated him and lynched him and beat him and killed him. A savage murder. Mamie Till decided to give her son an open casket viewing so that people everywhere, she said, I want the world to see what they did to my son. Amy Cooper knows full well who Carolyn Bryant is. Amy Cooper is aware of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014. Amy Cooper is aware of Tamir Rice. Amy Cooper is aware of Sandra Bland. Amy Cooper is aware of Tatiana Jefferson. Amy Cooper is aware of Breonna Taylor. Amy Cooper is aware of Ahmaud Arbery. Amy Cooper is aware of Charlena Lyles. Amy Cooper is aware of every white person throughout the United States who uses their cell phone as a bat signal to killer cops. Amy Cooper is well aware of what that means. Amy Cooper is well aware of John Crawford III. Amy Cooper knows well the full tradition and long, centuries-long history of white people who lie and end up bringing about the death of many a black person in this country. She is fully aware of that history. She is not ignorant. She knew exactly what she was doing. If you watch this video, there is nothing in it that shows a man doing anything to Amy Cooper. Christian Cooper was bird watching. And what Amy Cooper was doing was wrong on many levels. First of all, she was in a part of Central Park that requires a dog to be on a leash. And she was in that very part of the park with her dog that was not on a leash. She did not have a leash on her dog. Amy Cooper also started to charge at Christian Cooper, and she had her dog with her. That dog potentially could have been used as a weapon against him. Amy Cooper realized that a phone call to police could mean the end of Christian Cooper's life. Amy Cooper treated her own dog, because there was only one dog there and it was hers. She treated her dog with disdain and cruelty, which goes to show you the kind of person she is. She's going to lie against a black man who was just minding his own business, bird watching. And all he wanted to do was make sure that she had her dog on a leash. That's what the law said. That's what the regulation said. There are signs in that part of Central Park that indicate very clearly to dog owners, dog walkers, put your dog on a leash in this area. And all Christian Cooper was asking is that she do that. How many times have you been in the park and you've seen someone, and it is usually someone who's white, with a dog that's not on a leash when it's supposed to be on a leash? Everybody who lives in the United States of America has seen that. White people have seen it. Black people have seen it. We've all seen this. Where you have a dog owner, and again, it's usually someone who's white, in a city where there's a leash law, and these dog walkers and dog owners, well, dog walkers, but these dog owners, some of them just choose not to put their dog on a leash. And the dog is bounding around on the street, bounding around in a park where they're supposed to be on a leash. Of course, the other thing that Amy Cooper gets wrong, or does wrong, and does it deliberately, is that she actually says, I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life, when there's no such thing. You heard the video. How many Amy Coopers are there in the United States of America? How many are there? How many? There are too many people in this country who make phone calls like this. There are too many white people in this country, let's be specific, who make phone calls like this against black people who are simply minding their own business. And they know full well that these phone calls can result in the deaths of black people. If you get the police officer out there who is a racist or who is trigger happy or both, you could end up with a dead human being right there in an instant. Amy Cooper is fully aware of Philando Castile. Amy Cooper is aware of the police officer, the white female police officer who executed a black man, who was literally had his hands behind his head, on his head. She knows about all of these videos, just like every white person is aware of all of these cases, if not, the majority of them certainly. There is a long tradition in America of white people falsely accusing black people of doing things, and a long history of those black people either being jailed for life or jail for a long, long time for something they didn't do, or being killed, whether it be by white mobs or whether it be by police officers, usually white police officers, overwhelmingly. What Amy Cooper was doing was using her whiteness, using her white privilege to destroy a black man. She knows full well and knew full well that in America, being white is a passport. And it is a passport to leverage and power. And also the freedom and the power to literally end a black person's life. With just 3 keystrokes on a phone. That's how dangerous whiteness is in America. That's how dangerous whiteness is in an institutionally racist society. That's how dangerous whiteness is when people like Amy Cooper and other white people know that they are not going to face any consequences for the lies they tell that end up with the deaths of black men and women and boys and girls. Welcome back. There's been a history of these phone calls. We've seen them all over the place, where white people have been caught calling the police on black people. This has been going on for a long time. Before the cell phone came along, it was word of mouth, like Carolyn Bryant. Carolyn Bryant in 1955. And it wasn't until recently, she now in her 80s, admitted that she had lied. There are plans at least to prosecute her or look into it. I don't know what has happened with that. But it was only literally a few years ago. I mean, in the 2019s, 2018, 2017, whenever it was, that Carolyn Bryant, again in her 80s now, admitted in an interview that she was lying. And she lied about Emmett Till. Amy Cooper knows full well that whiteness will protect her. And whiteness is a toxic system of institutionalized racism and the criminal injustice system that backs up white racists and any white person who calls the police on a black person for no reason. We've seen this. We've seen black girls in San Francisco who are 6 years old selling water in front of the building they live in. And we've had situations where white women, in particular, have been calling the police on them. That happened here in San Francisco less than 2 years ago. We've had situations all over this country where white men and women are calling the police on black people for no reason at all. The only reason is that a white person in those situations is reacting with racism to the presence of someone who is black. It's not the black person's skin color that's the issue. It's the white person's racism and their racist attitude that is the issue. And that's where the focus must be. Ahmaud Arbery was just jogging. And we had 3 white men who reacted to that. And what the society has to do is deal with the reaction. That's what the society has to deal with. We've had cases all over this country where you've had white people pulling out cell phones. And thankfully, they've been caught on cell phone video themselves. We had a situation just a week or two ago where a black FedEx employee was being blocked in from a pathway. He couldn't even deliver what he needed to deliver because you had some white guy blocking his path and detaining him for something like an hour. FedEx, by the way, fired the black employee. Meanwhile, the white man that falsely imprisoned him for about an hour, to my knowledge, has gone unpunished. That is the system of whiteness. It is not white supremacy. There's no such thing as white supremacy. There's nothing supreme about what is being done. It is destructive. It is oppressive. And it's dangerous. There's a young man who opened a business, young black man who opened a business not far from here in San Francisco. Not all that far at all. And he had the police called on him. He had the police called on him. Police cars, 3 or 4 or 5 of them, within a few moments, descended upon him. His name is Victor Stevenson. And the police, with guns drawn, flew out of their vehicles, pointed their guns at him, demanding to see his ID, demanding to see his keys. He even showed them the keys. Look, I'm just opening my business. Some white person had decided, I'm going to call the police on this guy. And it was someone that just moved into the neighborhood. But it doesn't matter whether they've been there forever or not. It matters about the kind of conduct and why you're making a phone call to the police in the first place. And he had to gently show them the keys and then open his business. There would have been nothing stopping any one of those cops who had their guns drawn from using their guns on Victor Stevenson. On a personal note, I have met Victor Stevenson and his business, which is called Gourmand, which is a lemonade stand business that he has here in San Francisco. He is a great person. Good guy. But it doesn't matter whether he's a good guy or whether he's not. Just like it doesn't matter whether Christian Cooper went to Harvard or didn't. The background of someone who has been attacked or who has been terrorized is not the prevailing factor here. It is not the issue that this should be going on. The issue is not that Christian Cooper is from Harvard. That's not the issue at all here. What the issue is punishing and penalizing and giving severe penalties to white people who do this. It is a very, very dangerous, deadly exercise. One that can literally end the life of a black man or woman or a black boy or girl in this country. There's so many things that you could charge Amy Cooper with. You can charge her with menacing. You can charge her with aggravated assault. You could charge her with literally terroristic threats based on race. That is a hate crime. You can charge for that simply by the virtue of the fact that she actually said, I am going to tell them that an African American man is threatening my life. That alone is the intent for a hate crime. She's actually verbalizing her intent with Christian Cooper present, which shows you how comfortable she was, even with a video camera recording her. Comfortable enough in her own whiteness and in the system of whiteness that allows for such cavalier behavior and such deadly behavior, such dangerous behavior. She knew well what she was doing. She knew that her whiteness would protect her, and she knew that the system of whiteness would protect her. Amy Cooper has apologized. She said that she wanted to apologize to everybody. I think she should apologize to her parents, unless it was her parents that told her that this is how she should behave, or someone else, a friend, a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whomever, the society. Personally, I think she should lose her job for this. There is no excuse for this kind of behavior. And if Franklin Templeton Investments wants to send a message that they are not on board with racists, they will have to cut ties with Amy Cooper and cut ties with her immediately. There is no excuse for this behavior. And the statement that Franklin Templeton put out today, quote, "We take these matters very seriously, and we do not condone racism of any kind. While we are in the process of investigating the situation, the employee involved has been put on administrative leave." I don't think that's good enough. What is there to investigate? The videotape shows us all we need to know. And those of you out there who say, well, what happened before the videotape? Well, it's documented what happened before. He had been repeatedly asking, he being Christian Cooper, repeatedly asking Amy Cooper to put her dog on a leash, like the law says, like the sign says, like the area of the park she's in requires. And then he put the rest of it on video. I don't care what happened before. Nothing justifies her lying to the police. She should be charged with making false reports, among other things, as I've said. The other things that I've said that she should be charged with. There are a number of people who have done this. Again, there was a guy in Ohio in 2014 who lied, white man lied to dispatchers, saying that John Crawford III was waving around a gun in Walmart. And the police came in and killed him. John Crawford was on his phone, and it was a toy gun that he had in the aisle. He was walking around the aisle with it. And they murdered this guy. I guarantee you, had that been a white person walking down the aisle with a toy gun and being on the phone that he was talking on, there would not have been any shooting. We have seen this time and time again, where white people have knives, white people have swords, white people have guns. And you can go on YouTube and look all of this up. And video after video after video shows police not doing a thing to disarm them. Certainly not shooting them. When you have white police officers in this country who are on video actually saying, remember, we don't shoot white people, we only shoot black people, right? When you have that going on, and you can go on YouTube that, it is very clear that Amy Cooper and many white people like Amy Cooper, who think the way Amy Cooper does, who clearly are racists, take advantage of a system, of a suppressive and oppressive system of racism that they know in advance will protect them and shield them from any kind of consequence, criminally or otherwise. This is the danger that black people face every single second of the day here in the United States and beyond. When I come back, the solutions to all of this. Social media has reacted decisively against Amy Cooper, and that is a good thing. It's a starting point. And there needs to be more of this from white people who are of a good mind and are clear about racism and that it must end. And those white people who either say they are anti-racists or who say that they definitely have had enough of all of this must continue to stand up and speak out, and also go back to their communities and educate and challenge their fellow white neighbor or white family member. There should be white anti-racist committees in every neighborhood in this country. Just the same way that you have a neighborhood watch, you have a neighborhood watch in every neighborhood. There should be white people in every neighborhood, particularly those neighborhoods that are predominantly white, since we live in such a segregated country still, who really should have these committees, should make these anti-racist committees in their neighborhoods and meet every week, at least once a week, to talk about things, to talk about unlearning racist behavior. They should have these committees every week, the same way that we have white citizens councils and the White Citizens Council in this country and chapters of it all over the country. There should be white anti-racist councils everywhere around this country of the United States. That is what is one step that white people who are of good conscience should take. You have book clubs. You have tenants association meetings. You've got the app next door, for goodness sakes. What would stop anybody who is white and who is someone who insists, well, I'm not racist, which you really have to say is only the first step. You've got to be an anti-racist. What would stop any of the white people who declare that they have had enough of white people doing this to black people or any other person, be they Latina or Asian or Native American person? What would stop these individuals from forming groups on Nextdoor and calling themselves the White Anti-Racist Council? What would stop any of these individuals on Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, any of these apps, Zoom? Why not have these meetings every week or twice a week or once a week? Why would that be why can't people do that? Why can't those white people do that who claim that they are invested in ending this racism? Or even the people who don't come out and declare that they are anti-racist, but really do want to do something about this. They can meet on Zoom. They can invite like-minded white people on Zoom and all have a conversation about this amongst themselves and about the work that they are going to do in white communities all over this country. I've had some white people tell me, well, it's very difficult. It's tough to challenge your family member. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, maybe it is tough for you, but it's tough for us when we keep getting killed out here. That's a whole lot tougher. When a mother has to grieve her son. That's a whole lot tougher when Breonna Taylor is sleeping in her bed and these two cops, or however many of them, bust into her home and shoot her 8 times as she's sleeping, executing her. She never woke up. It's a whole lot tougher when Beaufort Jean is sitting in his apartment and a white female cop named Amber Geiger, shoots him at least twice at point blank range in his own apartment, claiming she thought it was hers. That is a whole lot tougher than your worry and discomfort at trying to tell your white relative or parent or husband or wife that you need to stop doing this and stop thinking this way. And if you don't, there's going to be consequences. You're going to lose a spouse. You're going to lose a friend. This can be done. And the challenge is with white America to do something about this. What if tomorrow people who feel the way that some white people do in terms of wanting to see an America where institutionalized racism is banished, where we no longer have this kind of oppression or any oppression, what if these white people would say, hey, we're going to shut this thing down. We're going to mobilize in the streets in every city in America. We're going to bring 50,000 of us, 100,000 of us, and we are going to swarm the streets of this country. And we're going to say, in every city, we aren't moving, we're shutting this down until you stop killing black people in this country. Until white violence ends in this country against black people. Until white people stop pulling out their cell phones and calling the police on black people, making terroristic threats against them, saying that they're going to call the police and tell them that an African American man is threatening their life, knowing full well that that's a weaponizing of death to a black person, and cavalierly thinking nothing of it. What if white people were to do that tomorrow? Agree, organize, and say, you know what? We're shutting down this neighborhood, our neighborhood. We're shutting down this operation in this country. We're not going to work. We're striking. We're not doing a thing. We're not moving from here until you stop all of this. What if that happened in America? What if it happened instead that every white person were to teach their child from a very early age not to hate? What if a white parent was to tell his or her child from a very early age, there is a system out there called whiteness. There is a system out there called racism. And it is oppressive, and it discriminates against black people, and discriminates against Latinx, and discriminates against Native Americans. And it discriminates against Asians. What if tomorrow you told your child that whiteness is a system that you and your child benefit from because you are white, because the society has been institutionally set up by white male power brokers whose society they did not invent, they stole. Whose society they did not invent, they stole. And whose people did not build it, black people built it on their backs for free. What if that history was told to your child? What if you told them that? What if you told them that because you're white, you will benefit in a racist society, an institutionally racist society, and that your responsibility as a white person is to treat black people with the same respect and that you get, and your responsibility as a white person is to call out any injustice that you see involving any black person. Where you see a black person being discriminated against, attacked, your responsibility is to speak up against it and intervene in it where you can. In fact, your responsibility is to make clear that this is not going to be tolerated. So if you see a black person in a restaurant and they're waiting there for half an hour before they get their menu given to them or get their order taken, as I have many times in San Francisco, then what you should do is intervene in that situation and advocate on behalf of that black person. That's something that you can do. And say that you're walking out of here. If this person here, this black person here does not get her food, does not get taken an order from and does not get her order taken, you're walking out of this restaurant. You're going to lose my business. That is what it will take in this country to make the move to end this system of whiteness and oppression that oppresses and racially discriminates against black people, Latinx. Those are the everyday acts that a white person can do to bring about an end to this, to help bring about an end to this. Sure, there are some white people in our history who have absolutely paid the ultimate sacrifice. Viola Luiso, James Reeb. Study who those individuals are. The two white men in Portland just a couple of years ago who died. Heather Heyer, 2017 in Charlottesville. And there are others. People like John Brown back in the day, way back in the day. Study these people, study the history. But this doesn't even require that kind of an ultimate sacrifice. This is easy. I've just laid out just a few of the things that an everyday white person can do. When you see your neighbors or hear your family members talking in racist ways, say racist things, challenge them. Challenge them. If you claim to be against what Amy Cooper did, challenge people who would justify Amy Cooper. Challenge people who would vote for Donald Trump. 53% of white women did, by the way, in 2016. And 65% of white men did. Challenge them. Some of them are in your family. Some of them may be your spouse. Some of them may be your child. Every white person who has a child can easily tell that child from an early age, you have to stand up and use your white privilege. You've got this very special and very destructive power. It's a special power because it can actually heal and it can actually restore something that the society itself has taken from black people. And that's called an equal footing. And that's called 500 years. And that's called a lot of other things. And I'm not saying that one act will restore that in one blink of an eye. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there is a measure of restoration that you can do in a small, small way that restores just a piece of what it means to be a human being in a racist place. If you can say, you have white privilege, you have to use it positively. And you can say, you have white privilege, therefore you have to use it in a way that helps elevate and restore someone to the level in an institutional society that's racist of respect. It's about restoring and forcing the institutions of racism and whiteness to restore black people to a level of respect in your eyes. Not to restore the black person themselves. There's nothing at issue with them. It's to restore the way that you as a society treat black people and correct that. It's a corrective. And what if today you as a white person said that to your child? And said to your child, you have a power called white privilege. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. You can use it for good to help black people and other people who are similarly situated, whether it's Latinas, Latinx. Black and brown people in this country could be vastly benefited by someone white who steps up in a situation and instead of gawking and looking and not doing anything and just looking on with the eyes of consent and approval of the situation, instead decides to speak up and say, hey, no, that's enough. This ain't going down out here. We need much more of that kind of white person in this country. We need that kind of person who is going to speak out, not just gawk, and then when the incident is over, come up to the black person and tell them, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. But where were you when it was happening? That's the challenge for white people in America. We need to have a more compassionate society. And with 100,000 people in this country and hundreds of thousands around the world dying from a virus, it is more incumbent than ever before that people reflect and change their behavior. And one of the things that I think white people can do in this country is put on a mask. Can we start with that? There are so many black people dying from this virus. And there are so many Latinas and Latinos, Latinx, dying from this virus in highly disproportionate numbers to their population. Can you put on a mask? Some white people are, but most are not. Not in this neighborhood, not in this city, and not across the country, by and large. Can you do that? It's a simple thing to do. It's interesting that Amy Cooper had her mask on and she pulled it off and then kept going. And she kept charging towards this guy, Christian Cooper. This guy, Christian Cooper. So that's another thing. She's got her mask off and she's coming right to him. And we don't know whether she has coronavirus or not. Where's the physical distancing? Don't even get me started there. But my point is that small acts of standing up when you know something's wrong, when you see it in front of you and you know it's wrong, but yet you sit there and just gawk at it and stare. And you usually stare at the black person who is being targeted. You don't stare at the white person who is doing the targeting. You don't tell them anything. You just sit there quietly and you may laugh or you may say nothing. That's the other crime. That's the second crime that happens. So you have an opportunity to change the way this society behaves, especially in this climate, especially with who's in the White House, and especially now. This is your moment, white America. And we have called on you many times before, hundreds and thousands of times through hundreds of years. We have called upon you to stand up, speak out, and actually do something to prevent and arrest these brutal acts against black people. That is the larger thing that needs to be emphasized here. And so far, like James Baldwin has said and others, that call has fallen on deaf ears for the most part. It is really up to you. It is not up to black people. It is up to white people to put an end to whiteness, to put an end to the Amy Cooperisms, to put an end to the systemic racism, and to put an end to these casual encounters of white people thinking that they can just put their cell phone on and lie and cause the death and basically be responsible for murder of a black person who's minding their own business. It is time to put an end to the Travis McMichaelisms, the Gregory McMichaelisms, and the institutions that protect them down in Georgia. The Jackie Johnsons and the DA's offices who protect the Gregory McMichaels and the Travis McMichaels of the world. That is what I'm talking about. Who tell people, tell the police, stand down, don't arrest them. Never mind they executed a black man on video and it was caught for the world to see. They executed him. Don't worry, don't arrest him. That's the whiteness I'm talking about. That's the system I'm referring to. And white people know that tomorrow they can lie about a black person and within 5 minutes or less, or in Tamir Rice's case, 0.2 seconds, they could be killed. Their lives could be ended. That is immense power. In fact, that's too much power. And it's about time you scaled that power back and you used your power in an affirmative way to help black people and to save their lives. Thank you for listening to this edition of The Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. As a companion to this episode of The Politicrat, Here are some books that I recommend for white people to read as starters in this journey that I think each and every white person must take in this country called the United States of America and beyond this country. So these are just some of the books I think that white people should be reading. I strongly recommend them. Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys is by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. First name Jawanza, last name Kunjufu, Kunjufu. The ISIS Papers, and ISIS is spelled ISIS. The ISIS Papers by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Her name is spelled Frances, middle name Cress, last name Welsing. The ISIS Papers. I recommend that and any other book and every other book that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has written. And she's no longer with us, but she's written a lot of really important books. I recommend that you read all of them. Enemies, Clash of Races by Dr. Haki Madhubuti. First name Haki, last name Madhubuti. Enemies, Clash of Races. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Her last name is spelled Diangelo. And here are some anti-racist educators that I strongly recommend that white people study and get to know. Dr. Ibram Kendi. Dr. Ibram Kendi, his first name is Ibram, last name Kendi. He is an anti-racist educator, and I strongly recommend that you get to know him. Search him online. His work is there. He's done a lot of great work over the years, and I strongly encourage you to look at his books, to go to his website. You can search it online, and all the work that he does. He also writes at The Atlantic. He has also devised the COVID-19 racial data tracker, which tracks the amount of black people in this country and Latinx who have died from this virus. I also recommend that you get in touch with Jane Elliott as well, another anti-racist educator. She is legendary. She was the person who did the brown eye, blue eye experiment in the 1960s. And those are maybe still available on YouTube, where she would segregate classes into brown-eyed people and blue-eyed people. And these are all white people in the class, students. And she would separate them, and she would give the blue-eyed kids privileges, and then she would discriminate or tell the blue-eyed kids to discriminate against the brown-eyed kids. Then she would reverse the roles and have the brown-eyed kids get all the privileges, and the blue-eyed kids get nothing. It's a legendary experiment. Jane Elliott is one of the great anti-racist educators of our time. And she has a website you can go to called janeelliott.com. That's Jane, the common spelling of that name, and then the last word or the last name is Elliott, Elliott, janeelliott.com. I strongly recommend that you visit her website and get to know her work and what she's done and her readings. I also recommend Jonathan Metzl. He has written a book called Dying of Whiteness, and his last name is spelled Metzl. Jonathan Metzl. And finally, another anti-racist educator I would recommend to you is Tim Wise. Tim Wise, his last name Wise. You can seek him out online, search for him, Tim Wise, another anti-racist educator who has done a lot of writings. All of these individuals I recommend. These are just a few of the individuals who are out here in this country who have done some very significant and very important work. And it's something that I think that white people should be tapping into everywhere. There are others, of course, all over the world who do this kinds of work, but these are individuals here within the United States who continue to do this work. Also, those books that I recommended to you, please do order these books and read them. Please pass them on to people who need to get this information. In fact, every white person needs to read these books. Thank you very much.